Welcome, Virgo, to your in-depth monthly horoscope for December 2023 for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you some standout features to look out for, but please stay with me. I will explore in much greater depth all the ins and outs, but particularly relevant to your sign. Now, your ruler is Mercury. If you noticed in the last week of November, that things seem to sort of slow down a little bit, but particularly around your thinking in terms of family life, how you felt about yourself, your inner world, it wouldn't be a surprise because it's entered its pre-retrograde shadow. Yes, we go into a retrograde on the 13th of December, but on the 1st of December, Mercury moves into an excellent location for you. So I must reassure you about that. We do have a new moon on the 12th, we have a full moon on the 27th, we also have the winter solstice, a critical event on the 22nd in Western tropical astrology. Please stay with me as I explore all of this in much greater detail. Now, if you've yet to order your personal horoscope for year 2024, if you do so now, you can still get the rest of this year free. But also my special package, you'll get your character analysis report, your life roadmap, and 30% off, but also your year 2024 zodiac forecast for each of the 12 signs, but also Indian forecast for each of the 12 signs, and Chinese forecast for each of the 12 animal signs. Totally free of charge, those booklets. Please see the link below for more. So Virgo, as you come into December, as I mentioned, you may have felt perhaps a little bit sluggish, but with the Sun and also Mars in the sign of Sagittarius, there is an opportunity to keep thrusting forwards around making some last minute physical changes to where you live. Last minute in terms of the context of the whole year, perhaps because you're going to have some visitors for the festivities. But on the first day, Mercury makes that transition into Capricorn. Mercury in Capricorn is great for business-minded type of people, or whether you like to sell stuff online, maybe as a little bit of a sideline, then Mercury moving here can be good for you. It can give you a lot more desire to connect to others. You may find that your sense of humour flames up in a positive way as well. Mercury can be very much the joker through its rulership of Gemini. Capricorn, of course, can be a very dry, earthy sense of humour, but I feel that that's pretty good for you, and it can be very helpful for the social dynamic. Always important at this time of year. Now, the 4th sees Venus move out of the sign of Libra and into the sign of Scorpio. Now, Scorpio housing Venus is complex. For you, it's going to see more dialogue. And I feel because at this time of year, people are often exchanging texts and emails and Facebook shares. And of course, some people will still send cards. So Venus is great for expressing affection in the 3rd house. Technically, Venus in Scorpio is debilitated. So I suppose the combination of the two is the liveliness of the 3rd house, but the strength and depth of feeling of Scorpio. So the hint here is say what you mean and mean what you say. So sincerity will be important over communications. But the 6th is something that I really think you're going to appreciate, because Neptune has been retracing its steps since the end of June. That's 22 and a half weeks, and in your sector of relating. Now, Neptune's done that every single year since 2012, but since March the 7th, it's also had Saturn in the 7th house of your situation along with Neptune. And that adds another layer of complexity, because Saturn in the 7th house is making you much more aware of where your interactions are not so easy, where maybe you're becoming more conscious of who doesn't necessarily see things the same way as you, can possibly have created some tensions in certain relationships. The interesting thing about Neptune going forwards is that although it is better to be going forwards in a way, what it was doing in the retrograde was asking you to think about the spiritual dimension of relating in a much deeper way. And just because it goes forwards is not a panacea, because it immediately from the 12th through to the 19th, then again on Christmas Day, and again in the last week of this month, is applying to influences in not a particularly helpful manner. But initially, I feel it will help to reduce a little bit of confusion or create a greater clarity, or make you a little bit more realistic, to be honest, about relationships, particularly if there's someone you haven't been sure of and you can't quite get to the bottom of where they're coming from. Neptune direct is helpful. The 12th sees the new moon in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a free-spirited sign, very adventurous, independent, can be frank, can be about exploring either physical travel or travelling through our minds and our philosophies. But the new moon is pretty close to Mars, and for you, house 4. I think if there is somebody around you who you feel doesn't really quite get your inner world as much as you would like them to, where you're coming from, what really defines you in an emotional context, I think you could find yourself being a bit more brusque and impatient with that. It also squares with Neptune for the following week, so there could be some sensitive moments still, despite Neptune going direct, around personal or romantic relationships. And on the 13th, Mercury, which has moved the first day of the month into that bubbly 5th house, goes into the formal retrograde. Mercury, your ruler, gives you that love of precision, of discrimination, of being able to really understand what's essential in any situation. The 5th house is the social world. There could be some changes planned. Now, I know that can happen at this time of year. Things are pretty fluid. You're a mutable sign, and you can be very pragmatic about that type of thing. But there may be someone that you're a bit more invested in that could change the plan, and that could be disappointing. But it could serve up some opportunities. Mercury retrograde is never all bad. For example, if you're someone who is a little bit more resistant to joining in socially, I think Mercury retrograde in this part of your chart can, in a way, make you think about why that is. And from the 18th to the 23rd, Venus goes into a really sparkling but potentially sparky opposition with Uranus. And you could suddenly find yourself having a connection with someone, sharing some messages, and being surprised about how they cut through in their communication in a way which really resonates with you, and it makes you feel excited and alive. Or someone could say something that's much more direct to you, and that is going to be interesting. Astrology aspects are very rarely one-dimensional. The 22nd sees the winter solstice. Great for you because the sun moves into your 5th house from the 4th, which is more outgoing. And if you have been resisting joining in the celebrations thus far, you're going to get much more of the drive to do so now. But over the next 13 weeks, the last quarter of the year in the Western tropical calendar, which is based on the seasons, not the Gregorian or the Julian calendars, well, this is a chance for you to show your flair, to demonstrate your artistry, to show that you can not always be wholly focused on being virtuous and practical in terms of work and life organisation. You can let yourself go a little bit. There's a complication because the 23rd, Mercury inverts back into the sign of Sagittarius, the 4th house. I feel that there could be some interesting conversations at the end of this year for you. And to be honest, Virgo, perhaps throughout 2024. The reason for this is that Mercury and Mars connect together but are squaring with Neptune. And as we turn into the new year, they're still pretty close together, Mercury and Mars, and Mercury's still in a retrograde. So Mars can be about impulse, passion, but also impatience in the 4th house. Mercury in the 4th house can see us thinking a lot about our emotional identity or about our family dynamics or where we live, but kind of at times getting maybe a little bit obsessive, finding it more difficult to actually act out and even express our emotions in the way we want. Interesting, because there is actually a glorious link between the Sun and Jupiter from the 25th to the 28th. So although Christmas Day itself is going to see your feelings quite close to the surface because the moon's in Gemini and it is squaring up with Neptune, so don't be surprised if you do find yourself feeling very, very tender around your emotions. But then the Sun linking with Jupiter, even though Jupiter at this stage is still retrograde, brings you through to the end of the year. Venus does move out of the sign of Scorpio on the 29th and moves into your 4th house. If you are going to celebrate New Year's Eve, it wouldn't be a surprise if you did invite one or two trusted friends round to where you live or with family members. But the full moon, which occurs on the 27th, is in its host sign of Cancer. But it actually links very well with a great angle between Saturn and Jupiter. Now, when I'm working with clients, especially on their progressed astrology, the relationship between Saturn and Jupiter is really important. If it's harsh, that will give me some understanding of where their financial or business prospects are heading. Obviously, Jupiter can be about luck, and Saturn, as the greater malefic, can be about restriction. But when they're aligned, Jupiter, the greater benefic, can actually balance out that more conservative energy of Saturn and use its wisdom in a positive way. So the full moon can see some bubbly interaction, I feel, but I feel that there's still part of you that may feel a little tender and could be a little bit reacting with Mercury in retrograde so close to Mars. But Jupiter comes out of its 4-month retrograde in the nick of time on the 31st. So as you enter into year 2024, it's angled to the Sun, not an exact trine, but pretty close. One of the most fantastic in astrology is really going to be good for you because the Sun in house 5 is about where you're going to manifest the best of yourself, life's pleasures, and really think about the happiness you want to bring into your world in the coming year. And Jupiter's in the part of your situation along with the stormy, disruptive Uranus, which is about opening things up, being more risk-taking, being more liberated, to go for it. So maybe somebody close to you is going to resist your desire to reshape your future plans in a way which suits your agenda more than theirs. Because one of the things about being a Virgo is that you can often be very supportive of other people, often in a very practical way. But if that's been pulverising your passion, this is a very passionate end to the year, but one that could see you a bit defensive when it comes to your emotional situation. So if anyone sort of close to you is kind of saying, well, what about me? And I feel that you're going to be quite assertive in saying, well, I need to do this for me. Now, if you are going to be on your own on Christmas Day, please know I will be thinking of you. I always think of people who are on their own on Christmas Day. But if you're not, I also have a great time. And I'm wishing you all the best for year 2024. Please do like, share, comment, or subscribe from this video. For now, take care and goodbye.